right, so let's assume that you've decided you're going to start a business. Maybe you're going to start with the sole proprietorship, just you, or maybe you have some partners in the business. So let's talk about why people start a business. You might be starting a business to satisfy personal objectives. Maybe you have this beautiful vision, this genius idea, and so you start a business so you can get your idea, your good, your service out there. Maybe your idea you think will be extremely profitable. So you have business objectives like bringing in funds. Many of the businesses that we see are started because people want to achieve independence. That is, you've been working for someone else for a number of years, and maybe you're just not satisfied with how they do things. Maybe you want to have more control, more autonomy over what is done. So, for example, let's suppose that you've been working for a nail salon and the amount of time that's being allocated to each customer you feel is too constraining for all the fancy designs that you want to do, or you feel like maybe the products that are being purchased and used aren't the quality, the type that you would use, the brand that you would want. And so you branch out and you start your own nail salon so that you have that independence. Maybe you do it to obtain additional income. So maybe you have a side hustle to make a little bit of extra money on the side. You have your normal job, but you found that you can make money. Let's say you're like during COVID, you were making masks and you were selling them. Maybe you're selling something on eBay or Kijiji or farmers markets. You're going to art fairs. And so that side hustle is a way to obtain additional income. And eventually you might move into that and make it a more established business. Maybe you're starting your business to help your family. So you want to create wealth, create a legacy, create opportunities for your children, for your family members, to create employment opportunities for the greater family. And finally, you may be starting a business so that you can provide products not available. Sorry, there's a typo there. It should say not available elsewhere. And so when we look at some of the businesses that we see, for example, around central Alberta, as we have new Canadians arriving, if you're new to the country, to the culture, you miss that home cooking, you miss access to the goods and services you used to buy. Maybe there were just really good chips and candy. Maybe there were certain spices that you can't get around here that you used to get back home. So you're going to have to import it for your benefits. Well, if you're paying to import it for yourself, why not import it for friends and family? Maybe sell it, you branch out. So we look at around Alberta, we have a Mexican grocer, Italian grocery, Korean grocery. Where do all these come from? They all come from people starting up businesses because they couldn't get access to the products that they had back home and found they could make money bringing in those goods, not only for themselves or their friends and family, but for the greater population as well. All right, so you want to start up a business. Well, if we look at businesses throughout history, pre-industrial revolution, all the businesses were either family businesses or else you worked for the government or a religious organization. You worked for the church or whatever religion was in your area. Come 1100 to 1790, we start to see craft guilds emerge. So here we have a master craftsman who owned the tools and the raw materials. And then we had a journeyman, so paid employees, and apprentices who were learning the trade. So these are really our first small to medium-sized enterprises. Over time, we see, with the Industrial Revolution, we see large manufacturing. So we start to see the much bigger businesses and the movement from the sole proprietorship, the partnership type organizations to the big corporations. And so now today we have quite a mix of family businesses, small businesses, large manufacturing. Whether you are the family business, the small business, or the big corporation, you're involved with international business today. So we have that increase in complexity and global competition as well. So let's focus then on that small business or family business and the decisions and skills we need to have our own business. So let's look at the entrepreneur. What do they do? What kind of skills and talents do you need to be a successful entrepreneur? Well, Jean-Baptiste Say was a French economist, and he said the entrepreneur is called upon to estimate with tolerable accuracy the importance of the specific product, the probable amount of the demand, and its means of production. In other words, the role of the entrepreneur is to determine, do people want my idea? How many people will want my idea? And how will we go about making it? Okay. Now, you might have heard of Jean-Baptiste Say if you're taking macroeconomics with us right now. You've seen Jean-Baptiste Say before. And he was an advocate for free markets or laissez-faire. So when you map that circular flow diagram of money and goods through the economy, that really goes back to Jean-Baptiste Say. All right, maybe someone who's still alive today. So let's look at a quote from Bill Aulet. And he is the managing director of MIT's Entrepreneurship. So we'll just go here. You can see him. And has written a number of books about what it means to be a successful entrepreneur. So here's a quote from him. He says, all people are born entrepreneurs, and then society slowly dilutes this and takes it away. So as we're looking at, should you start your own business? According to Bill Aulet, we're all entrepreneurs when we're born. The question is do you still have that entrepreneurial spirit? So what is it that an entrepreneur does? And so he has in his book a number of steps to start up a business. And so we're going to take this list here, and we'll just do a bit of a simplification here on the left to help us with what all this information is. Now, of course, we offer courses in entrepreneurship and small business, and so you will have opportunities to dive in and flesh out this process for starting up a business. So if you want to do a startup, what are the steps? And so we see here with the blue section, what we're really looking at here is determining first who are the customers. Okay, so first we need to figure out, are there people who are willing to buy our idea? Remember, as Jean-Baptiste says, you know, and I just lost it a second ago, do people want it, right? So we need to figure out who these people are so that ultimately we can figure out how much they might want and whether we would be profitable doing that. So this blue section here about defining the end user is really about identifying who the customers are. Then we get into the red items that he has here in terms of that life cycle use case and the value proposition. So now we're looking at what is the value added. So would people want our product? Does it add value to them? Why don't they just do this themselves or make it themselves? So we're looking at value added. We're looking at how we would compete. What would make us better than the competition that's out there? So we can look at our competitive position, define our core competencies, determine who are we, what are we about, and why people would want to come to us for this good or service. We then need to have a strategy for recruiting and retaining customers. If I can get that to show up here on them. Doesn't quite fit. I'll just make this bigger. Okay. So what you see here when we look at this gray here, determine the decision-making unit, map customer acquisitions, map the sales process. We're really looking at how are we going to get people to know about our product, to want our product, and to keep buying our product. Which brings us to the next piece here, which is now we're going to need to look at our pricing strategy. So how much are we going to charge for that particular good? That's kind of this green section here. Defining the pricing framework, And it says calculating the customer lifetime value. So as we look at this, we need to consider when it comes to our product, we need to look at the effort to gain a new customer. And we need to compare this to the amount we could make off of existing customers. Okay, I'll just move this over here. So we're looking at our effort to gain a new customer versus the amount we could make off of existing customers. So we're looking at the customer lifetime value. That is, over someone's lifetime, how much would they continue to buy from us? And we compare that. You see on number 19, cost of customer acquisition. How much would it cost us to recruit a new customer? So part of the decisions businesses make as they're initially starting up is, are we going to focus on increasing the market share and getting more and more customers? Are we going to get money from customers keep coming back? So is it better to keep the old or get the new? When we look at businesses like Shaw, TELUS, the banks in Canada, right, which one do they put all their focus in? The new customer or the existing customer? Well, you get a free iPad if you open a bank account. You get discounts on your TV, your cable if you switch over, right? The focus is really on the new customer, not the existing customer. The other thing as part of this decision is, how frequently will they need to replace the product they're buying from you? Is this something where they could buy from you every year? In which case, you are not as concerned about that growth in market share because you're going to make more money as people buy from you. If instead it's something they would only buy from you once, right, that impacts that decision. So if we look at, for example, apps for your phone, it used to be you paid your $3 and you permanently bought that game or note-taking app or whatever it was. Okay. The idea here was that businesses were going to make their money by getting new customers buying their app. But what we've started to see is that that's not so sustainable because they bought it once and they don't buy it again. There aren't enough people, new customers coming in. So what you see with the apps for phones is they're all switching to a subscription service. So then the money is constantly coming in. We see the same thing, right, with video games, increasing that downloadable content so people keep bringing it in, bringing money into the organization. So you need to decide what your business model is going to look like, how you're going to bring money into the organization. All right, C, D, E. Okay. Part of that decision is it going to be a new customer or are we going to focus our attention on existing customers? We need to look at what is the TAM. Okay, so TAM being the total adoptable market. So when we look at TAM, that total adoptable market, we are looking at what would be the revenue if we had 100% of the market share. So you've identified at the beginning let's try that again, 100% of the market share. So you've identified at the beginning who the customers are, who that target market is, okay, who they are, what that profile looks like. And so the question becomes, is if you get all of them, everyone who falls into that category, that classification, that type of individual, how much revenue would you make? So we look at our TAM for our markets to determine, what is the maximum revenue that we can have if we have 100% of the market share. Again, are we going to be focusing on increasing the market share? Are we focused on getting people to buy again who have been previous customers? All right, then The last piece here, as we are starting up, before you get into building your business plan and some long-term strategic planning and those operations, what we have here, this last piece, is that we have really a proof of concept test. So we've identified who we think are the customers. We've identified how we're going to add value, how we're going to recruit and retain them, what we're going to price the product at, whether we're going to focus on recruiting new customers or getting existing ones to keep buying. And so now we finally need to send out that product to see if there are any takers. So the orange section that you see along the bottom looks at defining the minimum viable business product. So I'm just going to write that here. Let's see if it will show up. Minimum viable business product. All right, what he's labeled here is MVBP. And that minimum viable business product, just scoot this over a little bit here. What this is the version of the product that has just enough features to be usable. So the idea is that we don't release to the public in our first version of the product the full version with all the bells and whistles. That's going to cost a lot of money and upfront resources in terms of research development, product testing, prototyping. So we want to create one that's just the minimum viable business product. What are the basic features of the product in order to meet the customer's needs? And then what we can do is a test of concept. We look and see, do those customers we've identified as our potential customers, are they takers? Are they willing to pay the price that we've set? Are they the ones who are willing to buy our product? So if you think about, for example, an iPhone, right? Every year they're adding additional features to the iPhone. That gets the customers to come back and upgrade. It also means that we don't have to wait and release one beautiful, perfect iPhone and then never change it. We have a minimum viable business product. We got the basics. It's a phone, it surfs the internet, and over time we've added more and more features to it. So as you're looking to start up your organization, who are the customers? How will we compete? What kind of value are we adding? What's our strategy in terms of recruiting and retaining customers? What is our pricing strategy? Are we going to focus on new customers, on getting the customers we already have to buy from us again? Then we need to test that out with that proof of concept test. Are people willing to actually purchase our product? Is it viable in its basic form? And then we can evolve it over time. I don't know what that is. All right, let's go back to our slides here. So I encourage you, if you are looking to start up your business, to look more at Bill Aulet's work. We'll talk one more piece from him, and that is the 5 personas of entrepreneurship. So there are different types of entrepreneurs, according to Bill Aulet. One is that you are the curious entrepreneur. So maybe you had a lemonade stand as a kid. In that case, right, you're exploring what is it like to be an entrepreneur? What is it like to start up a business? Maybe you are more of the ready-to-go entrepreneur. So you have the idea, you have the people, you have the processes, but you need help getting started. When we look at economic development offices in towns, when we look at nonprofits, they are usually focused on the ready-to-go entrepreneur. So in Central Alberta, for example, we have a company called Futurepreneur, and their job is to help that ready-to-go entrepreneur get funding. Okay, develop the business plan so that the bank will give you a loan. So you have the vision, you have the people and the process, but you need that help in that startup. Maybe you are more of a joiner. So you don't have the business idea, but you can help make someone else's vision a reality. So maybe you are more of the investor for someone else who has the vision. Maybe you are an amplifier. So you promote entrepreneurship, but it's not necessarily your venture yourself. So maybe you work for the Economic Development Office. Maybe you work for the nonprofit like Futurepreneur. Maybe you work in banking in terms of helping with financing those startups and with more of those corporate loans. Maybe you are more a corporate entrepreneur. So you are not starting up your own business. You like the safety and security of working for someone else. So I did have a consulting company. I did some litigation consulting. And the challenge, of course, with that is that there's no benefits. You have to self-pay for medical and dental. And there's a lot less stability and safety in that, right? When you're on your own, if there's not contracts coming in, there's no money. Whereas if you work for an organization, right, we got paychecks, you know that the pay, the benefits, they're all stable and taken care of. So maybe you're an entrepreneur, but you're not willing to have that level of risk and uncertainty. So maybe you're a corporate entrepreneur. And that is, you are then coming up with new product lines, new markets within the organization.